You're stuck on a content treadmill that's burning you out. You're posting value content, shared tips and tricks, and even doing those helpful carousels for your clients. But your inbox is getting filled with random folks. I call them freebie seekers. They're just happy to stay there and grab freebies from you. They don't even engage when you're trying to have a conversation with them in the real time. So you're getting engagement and not clients. I mean, the right clients. People who are ready to jump in without asking these foolish questions and without having any hesitation or willing to do any negotiation with you before jumping in. That's what you're looking for, right? Now, what if I tell you the entire path of sharing more value or creating value to gain trust or creating value to create clients is completely broken nowadays, because that's the only reason for you being in a state where you're getting inconsistent clients and inconsistent revenue. And what if I tell you there's a system out there, a neurological sequence, that completely flips this model on its head? And more importantly, this is a system that's responsible for you to attract pre-sold leads. More importantly, turns your strangers into pre-sold leads within 48 hours of finding you. This is the exact content system that has allowed me to build a six-figure business online with three of the most important things: peace, profit, and a roster of soulmate clients. In this video, I'm not going to give you any content hack or a content trick. I'm literally going to give you the keys to the control room, your buyer's brain. And I'm going to walk you through the three important neurological phases every single of your buyer goes through before they actually buy your stuff. And along with that, I'll show you the 8 important triggers that you need to activate in your content that will make the sale inevitable. And don't worry, this has nothing to do with posting 3 to 5 times a day. Even if you want, you can post way less. I do twice a day max. Okay, and if you hate sales, if you think you're not a marketer, I promise you this is going to be the best content strategy, I would rather say, more authentic, that you can use to literally get inbound leads and clients from your content. And this is one of the best ways to get clients, because you don't need to twist your arms and legs in order to convince someone to buy your stuff, because this is how humans react. This is how humans are wired. So in this content strategy, we'll talk about those neurological phases in a human's brain that guides them to take the action, that is to buy from you. Okay, sorry about that quick transition. Stick with me, because the thing that I'm about to share with you right now is completely going to change the way you think about your business permanently. Okay, so the first, we'll talk about the 3 different parts of our brain. That's important. So number 1 is the gatekeeper. We call it the primal brain. So as you can see on my screen, the first thing you have to understand that you're not selling to one brain. We have 3 different passes. You can see phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So you're selling to all 3 at a time. I don't know about you, but what I see most coaches doing it wrong is they try to sell the rational brain, the one which says phase 3, this portion of the brain. So they try to, lead with value, features, and even education. But what they don't understand is rational brain is the last part. It's just like the final step that makes the decision yes or no. So the most important part that people need to consider is phase 1, which is the primal brain, because this is the gatekeeper. If you're able to activate your buyer's primal brain, then they're interested to hearing more. Otherwise, it's just a noise. I remember doing a small research on internet about primal brain, and this is what I found. I'm just going to read this out to you. Your primal brain is just like a gatekeeper, like a bouncer, a security. So in every single second, it's filtering 11 million bits of sensory information, and it only lets about 40 through to your conscious awareness. Just imagine how important is this. If you're not able to activate this part, your content becomes a noise, as I said earlier. So it mainly need to answer 2 important questions. Number 1, is it even relevant to me or not? If not, your doors will remain closed. And number 2, is it going to help me solve a big challenge in my life, or is it going to take me closer to a desired goal in my life or not? If yes, you're through. If not, that's a noise. So if your content doesn't get past the bouncer, it doesn't matter. No matter how good it is, no matter how informative, how valuable it is, no matter how you share your perspective about to share your offer in your content, it doesn't matter. I see most coaches talk about sharing more value to your audience, but it's just like sharing solution to your audience. And people don't crave about solution. I mean, not people, their brain, the primal brain doesn't crave for solution in the first place. So if you're not, so, as I mentioned earlier, the solution, the education is all part of the phase three, which is the rational brain. So if you're not able to activate or get past phase one, none of that matters. So all your educational content, all your uh, valuable stuff doesn't get past your phase one. So right now we are talking about phase one, which is the primal brain. So I'm going to write it here for you so it makes it easy for you to understand. So this is primal brain. This is emotional part of the brain. And this is the rational part of the brain. So the first trigger that we have for our phase one, which is your primal brain, is symptoms. So you must describe the pain your audience is experiencing in their world in their own exact language that they're not even able to articulate that properly or even scared to talk about it. So those are basically the 3 a.m. thoughts that they might have at night, which they are afraid of but are not willing to talk about it publicly. It needs to be specific, like I would call it like hyper specific, not like boring chat GPT AI-ish symptoms that you can find. For example, not you have to overcome imposter syndrome, but you're terrified that one day your clients will realize you're just making it all up as you go. So when you describe the symptoms, the lived experience of the problem in your content, the primal brain lit up. It releases dopamine, and that's most important, right? And it gets your buyers to stop scrolling and read your content. And more importantly, this is what is responsible to get your buyers, I would rather say your audience, to consume all of your content and binge your content. And that's what makes it special. And once they binge your content, it becomes easy for them to get pre-sold into your process. But that's not enough as well. That's just the half of you getting past the gatekeeper. The second trigger is very important and is very critical. That is villain. You have to name a villain for them. A villain is not a person, but I would rather say a system, a way of doing things. That's what I call villain. So I'm going to write it down here for you to make it easy. You can take a screenshot of this diagram if you feel like at the end, of course. So the second trigger that affects, I would rather say activates the primal brain is villain. So you got to name them. So just imagine this, the primal brain thinks in contrast, like the difference between us, like you, and your competitors, them, So there's a difference between us versus them, safe versus dangerous. That matters. Now, to become the obvious choice in your buyer's head, you have to position yourself against the methods that your competitors are already talking about. Again, as I mentioned, villain is not a person. It's kind of a method or a way of doing things that you hate, but your industry talks about it and you're going to throw rocks at them. So for example, before I actually dive into example, I just want to let you know. So when you are able to articulate the villain properly, your clients stop and they try to see you as a different guy. This is not just another coach saying the same thing again and again, just like the industry does. So you're challenging the norms. That's what creates a shift. That's what activates the primal brain. So for example, when I try to hit the villain, you see me always saying funnels are dead, sales calls are optional. So I'm trying to throw rocks at what people in our industry idealizes, that is sales calls or bro marketing. They show this flashy Lamborghinis out there, right? And I want to throw rocks at them because those are the things that I don't believe in. I don't believe in hustle. That's also a villain for me, right? So that's important. So when you do these two things together, compiled up together, you speak to the symptoms and define the villain clearly, you have captured their attention. You have activated their primal brain, which is the most important part for us. Now, let's say you have passed the bouncer. Now, what you got to do is you have to win their trust, win over the real decision maker, I would say. And that's your phase two, which is the emotional part of the brain. And the emotional part of the brain consists of 4 different triggers, and they are super important. And one important thing I need to share before I actually dive into the 4 important triggers that comes in your emotional brain, that is, people don't buy with logic, they buy with emotion. That's the most important thing. And later on, they use logic to justify their purchase. And if you're not able to activate this emotional brain. You'll get those love reaction, amazing comments, shares, and those great, this is a golden post, a helpful post, but you'll not get bias from your content. And most of the coaches I see, they're not even able to activate this part of the brain at all. Hence, they have to look for other strategies like outbound DMs or cold calling and all that stuff. If you're able to execute all three important phases in a particular order, I promise you don't even need a sales call to close deals. So the first trigger that we have here is what we call desired outcomes. So once you've connected with the pain, now is the time for you to paint a vivid picture of the goal, the definition of the desired result they're looking for, right? So I don't want you to be like a random coach out there just talking like shit stuff out there. What you need to do instead is you need to be very, very specific. Not that, okay, I'm going to help you get more clients. You got to make them feel about what you're talking about. So once you've connected with their pain, now is the time that you must paint a vivid picture of their desires. Don't just tell like get more clients. I want you to be very, very specific. Get them to feel what you're talking about. Something like I know how it feels when you wake up to an empty calendar and a pit in your gut. Something like that. I want you to make sure that you are actually helping them to feel what you're talking about. Like in my case, what I try to do is I try to help them see themselves logging into this Stripe account and seeing the predictable or the recurring revenue they might earn this month. you know that's the moment when someone recognizes that there's a gap between their current reality and where they're aiming at the desired goal. So you need to narrate the desired goal in such a manner that people will be able to look at you and say, I'm there, I can find the gap that I have, and I'm willing to work on it. And the moment you realize that you are able to close the gap between your client's current state, current reality, and their desired reality, their brain creates a gap, a tension, and they feel that tension to close the gap like massively. So what they do in that case is they go and start binging your content, which actually gets them to drive straight into your profile, look at all your content stuff, click on your link in your bio, and that what starts to make them getting pre-sold into your process and who you are as a coach. Now in trigger 4 is what we call elevate authority. I don't mean flexing testimonials and your credentials and all that stuff. The emotional brain doesn't care about your client testimonials, your credential. It responds to a specific trifecta of authority, which is aspiration, vulnerability, and conspiracy. If you can blend these three things together in the form of a triad in your content, that immediately elevates you and they look up to you as the authority figure in your niche. And just to quickly go over each of those terms, like aspiration, you have to represent the future they just visualized with you. So you're the living proof that the desired outcome is possible with your methodologies. Number two, vulnerability. You have to show them that you were once there where they are right now. So you have lived the experience, you know how it feels, you know the pain. Now that's the reason they are looking up to you, because you have already done that what you're trying to do right now. And the last one is controversy, that you must have a POV, a point of view that challenges a particular villain, I would say a norm that your industry believes, and they work on it. So because people are already tired of hearing the same thing again and again, and they're already tired of, doing stuff which didn't give them any results in the past. So people are not worried about you being the coach right for them or not. They're worried about implementing the stuff which they've already tried and tested, but it didn't work for them. So you have to have your unique experience, your unique controversy, I would rather say a unique way of operation that gets them to think, oh, I haven't seen this guy. This guy is different. Let me see. That what creates the tension again in their brain. That's how you elevate your authority. By having those three important pillars, all three combined, it becomes electric. Okay, the next up we have is identity. And this is super important. This is the holy grail, guys. You need to tap into their identity, of course. So when your content makes someone feel like you're speaking directly to who they want to become, the conversation is no longer about price anymore. It's all about the identity. They're not buying coaching anymore. They're not buying any programs, memberships. They buy the identity of the respected leader. I would rather say they buy coaches in a simple way, because people buy people, as you know by now. right? They're buying the identity of the disciplined, successful founder they want to be. When a purchase becomes an investment in their future self, they stop comparing your prices with your competitors because the purchase feels inevitable, and because to not to buy from you feels like a delaying process in them becoming the person they want to be with you. So this is what makes them, feel like this is literally me. This is when they tag their friends, tag their colleagues, share your content, and feel, yeah, this is the right person for me, and I just really want to be just like him. So finally, the bridge to the final phase is the trigger six, which is again super important. We call it expose the gap. So this is where you show them something that they didn't know, something that's maybe a hidden mistake they're not aware of that's costing them a lot, or maybe a knowledge gap that's holding them back. So, for example, let's say I'm doing it right now in front of you. I'm showing you that focusing on value content itself is a strategic error if you're planning to, or if you're trying to attract, clients from your content directly, as it only targets or activates the rational part of the brain, which is the phase three. And you know by now that it doesn't work like that. Your content needs to activate phase one, the primal brain first, just to get into the door, then work on the emotional brain, because your primal brain is actually gets people to say, let's say, emotionally invested into the process that you're trying to sell. And your emotional brain is responsible to buy into the process if they're interested. And then comes the rational brain, which is responsible to make kind of a logical decision if they're making a right decision or not. Whereas the educational content right now are all targeting towards the phase three of the brain, the rational part of the brain. So it doesn't matter, no matter how much information you're putting out there, it doesn't activate that part of the brain because you're not already passed to the phase one of the brain, right? Now let's move on to the third part of the brain, which is the justifier, the rational part of the brain, phase three. Now, as you can see on my screen, the phase three, the rational brain, we also call it the neocortex, is responsible not to make decisions, but I would rather say to justify the decision you have made through your emotional brain. So in order for you to work on this, you need two triggers. The first one is what we call showcase results. Now you might be thinking this to be very much similar to the aspiration thing that we already mentioned, but this is completely different from the aspirational storytelling we did earlier, guys. This is the proof, by the way. But here's the key. The result you show must make prospects feel like one thing, which is very important. That is, if they can do it, I can too. That's the most important thing here, guys. So don't just show like most insane, unrelatable results like screenshots. In our niche, in business industry, I see most coaches sharing the Stripe screenshots, their expensive cars. That doesn't build credibility at all nowadays. So I would rather recommend you to show a result from a client who started in the exact same spot uh, where your ideal buyer is right now, and show exactly how what you think you worked on and how you're able to give them a result. So when you do that, the perceived risk of buying your stuff diminishes. So it kind of gives a green light to your brain. So this is where people think, okay, I'm going to click apply now or book a call with this person. And finally, trigger eight. This is where you try to overcome objections in your prospect's mind. So as I said, rational brain is a risk assessment brain, right? It's a machine, I would say. It's thinking that what if it doesn't work for me? Or what if I don't have enough time to implement what he's saying? Or what if this is too expensive for me to get started with? So your content must systematically and proactively handle those objections before you actually get on a call with the prospect, or even you have a conversation with them on the DMs. Because what I would recommend, and I always recommend this to my clients, to always create content, post maybe stories or maybe carousels on handling the time, money, and what if it doesn't work objections. It always works beforehand, because this is what responsible, this is what is responsible to make your buyers pre-sold into what you're all about, what your offer is all about, right? So when you do this, people don't show up to sales call, if you're taking sales calls, by the way, to kind of interrogate you, or kind of just to be there to grab some free information and go ahead and work on it by themselves. They're literally there because they already know who you are. They already know what your offer is all about. They already have heard you saying about the objection they already have in their mind. So you have reduced the risk of them working with you at all. So whenever they're on a call or in a conversation with you on the DMs, it feels very aligned. And hence I say, when you implement all these eight triggers in your content, you're not trying to force or convince someone to book a call with you. You're kind of creating a shift in their brain, a shift in their identity, and that's what making them think differently and articulate their problems, look into their problems differently. And that's when they decide, okay, I want to work with this guy because I want to become this person. I want to tap into this identity, and I know this person can help me because with the information, I can see the gap, what I'm missing, that's actually prevent me to get there. At the same time, I can also see the proof, the results, and I have few questions within me, and I also got those questions handled in the content itself. So all these 8 triggers combined can help you take a stranger and convert the stranger into pre-sold client within 24 hours, I would say. Now again, guys, I just want to tell you this upfront. This is not a content schedule that most will follow, like Monday I'm going to do a value post, Tuesday testimonial, Wednesday shift post, Thursday I don't know what. This is a system, not a content calendar. It's a neurological conversion mechanism that is true in a particular sequence that gets all of these 3 parts of brain activated. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just go over each of them once again, do a quick recap for you guys so you understand what this is all about, and it makes it super clear for you at the same time. So at the first we had the primal brain, which is the phase one, of course. This is what you need to activate with your content. The way to do that is you need to talk about 2 things in your content. Number one is you need to connect with symptoms. People that are already struggling with are not able to articulate it properly. Those 3 aim thoughts that they have in their mind. Number two is you have to name the villain because people are already tired of doing the same shit every single day. They're tired of looking at the same shit your competitors are talking about. So you have to throw rocks at them and show your unique mechanism, a unique process of getting them into believe and trust what you do. So the next part of the brain, once you do these 2 things properly, you get into the second phase of the brain, which is the emotional brain. This is where a person buys. The 80% of the purchasing decision is handled by this emotional brain. So in this case, you need to narrate their desired outcomes in such a way they will be able to articulate where they want to be, what they want to do. And to do that, you have to show you are the right person for them. So in that case, we need to you need to show yourself as the authority. And the way to do that is you need to take care of the 3 important aspects in there. Number one is you are the right person for them. Number two is showing a kind of a vulnerable situation you have gone through that actually made who you are today. And number three is conspiracy. That's what separates you from the rest. So once you have the authority in place, once they believe you, once they trust you, the next thing is the identity. They just want to become the person like you. So tapping into the identity is super, super important. And lastly, you need to expose the gaps or mistakes that they even had no chance of discovering that they even have those problems in them or in the process. So if you're able to expose those gaps and mistakes, that's actually making them stuck in a particular phase, you will be able to execute and activate this emotional part of the brain, which get them to say, I'm totally invested in this guy, I'm going to buy. And then comes the last part of the brain, which is the rational brain. This is what justifies that the decision they have already made emotionally is right or wrong. So in order for you to crush this part, you need to make sure that you showcase results like what it feels like working with you. So you can share your process or the thing that you've implemented with your clients in order to get there, or maybe in your own case as well. And then they might have a few questions, maybe objections, the common objections. You can talk about those objections in your content, in your stories, in your videos, everywhere. And believe me, when you do this all steps, you are taking someone from a stranger to buyer within 24 hours. So when you do this right, as you can see on my screen, you get DMs like this. You are able to attract your soulmate clients. And the most important part that I believe is when you do this thing, you don't even need any manipulative power, any sales skills. You can be the coach you are and still get people reaching out to you, inbound leads and soulmate clients. And you, again, I promise you, you don't even need sales call at all to close these deals. And again, I'm going to simply scroll through the slides as you can see here. When you do this right, sales calls stop feeling like a tense negotiation and becomes optional in the most cases. Your revenue stops being a roller coaster and becomes predictable. You get your time back, you get your peace back. You're no longer a content creator, you're no longer a marketer, you are the architect of a world-class business which is attracting world-class clients who get world-class results working with you. This is the actual difference between a 10K a month and 100K a month. And lastly, I do have one bonus offer for you. I know you've been doing content for a while. I don't know exactly what kind of content you're doing or in a particular what particular order you're using right now. If you want me to audit your profile to see exactly what content you're doing and what mistake I could figure out, comment the word audit. I'm going to take a look at your profile and do a short Loom video explaining what are the mistakes you're doing and what are the things that you need to do it right in order to attract this pre-sold leads into your world. Again, comment the word audit. I'll shoot you a personal video for you.